Okay, so we're moving on to session 3 for lesson 9. We're going to continue with rounding decimals. And what we're also going to do is just go over the traditional way of doing it and also talk about some alternative methods. One of the alternative methods for rounding is using a number line. And that way you can kind of visually see which number it's closer to if you're going to be rounding to a certain number. And this one, it wants you to put 2 and 75 hundredths on a number line and then answer these questions. Is it less than, equal to, or greater than 2.5? Is it closer to 2 or 3? And what that number is rounded to the nearest whole number. So let's do that on this number line over here. So for the number line, let's put our numbers in. Let's start with our whole numbers. We've got 2.0 and 3.0. And we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have this for 2, 2 and 5/10. So what we have to do here is find out where 2 and 75 hundredths is gonna lay. So let's see. We've got 2.6, we have 2.7, and we have 2.8 here. And we know that 2 75 hundredths is right in between right here. So let's put 275. So the first question was, is 2 and 75 hundredths greater than, less than, or equal to 2.5? Well, we can see right here in the line that it's greater than, like it's further up on the line and closer to that. So, so 2 and 75 hundredths is greater than 2 and 5/10. And you could look just at the tenths place to do that and ignore the hundredths place. The next question is 2 and 75 hundredths closer to 3 or 2? In this case, here's our 3, and here's our 2, and it's pretty obvious that this is closer to 3. And then the last question, what's 2 and 75 hundredths rounded up to the nearest whole number? That answer is pretty simple because it's literally nearer to the 3 in this case. So it's going to be round up to 3 for that. So a number line is a great way to kind of see and compare decimal numbers to one another. Not always practical. That's why for this, when we start our notes today, I'm kind of going to go over the traditional way of rounding, just to go over that with you. All right, so go ahead and turn to page 177. And we've got this. So Tyson runs in a race at a track meet. One stopwatch shows his time as 11 and 25 hundred seconds. Another stopwatch shows his time as 11 and 245,000 seconds. Round each time to the nearest tenth of a second. To do that, we're going to split this into two sides. And let's put 11 and 25 hundredths here. And then let's put 11 and 245 thousandths right here. So we want to round these to the nearest tenth. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll draw an arrow to what place value they want to round to. So for these, let's draw an arrow to the 2 in this first time and the 2 in the other one. And I also like to do this. I like to circle the number right next to it, because the place value to the right is what determines how you round it. So for this one, we've got a 5. So right here, 5 and above, that equals round up. So that means we're going to round that 2 up into a 3. So that's 11 and 3/10. For this one, we have a 4 and 4 and below. You just keep it. So and then this one is 11 and 2/10. So just those two basic rules. 5 and above, you round up. 4 and below, you just keep it. And then eventually you'll probably reach a point where you don't have to circle anything or draw your attention to parts, but like be able to do these in your head. But for now, it's probably best just to do symbols and use easy ways to like keep things on track. All right, let's turn the page. So here's another way we could have done it. You can place them on number lines to see the relationship to the nearby tenths. In both cases, you can see that since this one's exactly halfway, the rule is to round up. So we'll keep it for that one. The other one, you can physically see that it's not. So the halfway point's right here. And you notice that it's actually closer to that. So that's why we're going to keep it to 11 2/10. So it's going to be this one. So whichever one is closer to. Another way to do it is to use place value charts to compare them to nearby tenths. So for example, for this first one, we've got 11 2/10, 11 3/10, and then we see that 11 25/100 is exactly between this. So we've got 20, 25, and 30. We know 25 is exactly halfway, so we would round up. In this case, we disregard the thousandths. We don't need those. So we just cross those out. That's why they grade them out. And then let's compare these now that we've got them all the same. So we've got 20, 24, and 30. And 24 is closer to this one, so this would be 11 2/10. So there's that. But again, like with the first example, I thought the traditional method was probably the best way to do it. There's less work involved, and it just makes more sense. All right, picture it and model it. Why do the number lines and place value charts start at 11 2/10 and end at 11 3/10? Because, actually, let me write this in blue. They are the nearest tenths. So again, it kind of just shows us what the possible answers are, almost like a multiple choice question. How do you know 11 25/100 is located at the halfway point between 11 2/10, 11 3/10? 5 is exactly halfway. Let's just simply put that 5 right here. It's exactly halfway. What are 11 25/100 and 11 245 thousandths rounded to the nearest tenth? Use the number line to support your answers. We're not going to do that. 11 25/100 equals 11 3/10. And then 11 245 thousandths equals 11 2/10. How do the place value charts help you see that 11 245 thousandths is closer to 11 2/10 than to 11 3/10? Because 24 is closer to 20 than 30. So if it's 25, 26, 27, whichever, those would be closer to 30. If you're rounding to the nearest tenth, what place value do you look at to decide how to round the numbers? So that's easy. You always look at the place value to the right. So there's tenths place. Immediately to the right is the hundredths place. And explain, how would you round a decimal to the nearest hundred? You would look at the number in the thousandths place. There we go. Pretty simple. All right, go ahead and cross off 6, or excuse me, cross off 7. We will not be doing that one. And then let's look at number 8. So Belinda paid $108.34 for groceries. Rounded to the nearest dollar. How much did Linda pay for groceries. So let's put this down here. So 108.34. So the nearest dollar is this place value right here. This would be dollars. The next to it would be $10, and the third column will be $100. So we're talking about single dollar. So we're going to look at the next place value over. So that's a 3. So that's 4 and below. So we're going to keep it. The answer to the nearest dollar is $108 for that answer. So in fact, let me write here 4 and below equals keep. All right, cool. A dropper holds 817 thousandths millimeter of fluid. What is this amount rounded to the nearest hundredth? Show your work. That's pretty simple. So let's write down their number. 817 thousandths. We want to round to the nearest hundredth. And then we're going to look at the number to the immediate right and decide what it does. So 5 and above equals, and again, 5 and above, we round up. That means we just go up to the next value. So that will be 0.82 or 82 hundredths millimeter. In fact, let's write that. Again, it's only just millimeter singular because fractions and decimals are part of one whole. So we can't really add an S to it because it's not more than one. In this last one, it says which decimals have been rounded correctly to the nearest tenth. This one's easier than it looks. So all of these are the final numbers they've been rounded to. You just have to talk about which one has been rounded to the nearest tenth. So we've got, so that would be this one right here, B, and this one right here, D. Now this one, the book doesn't say that this one counts, but I think this should be counted because the 0 holds no place value. So maybe E, but the teacher's guide just gave me the answer is that, but I question that. I almost feel that E should be included. You probably do too. All right, so your homework, excuse me, your classwork, even though it says homework on here, is G9. It's round decimals. It's a typical same thing, 70% to complete your lesson plan, 100% for a house point. So contact me if you have any information or any questions, and I'll try to help you out best I can.